Okay, today we're going to go inside the Monkeey-mobile. This is the friction powered one that has the talking or singing record in it, if you will. What was Aoshin Company in Japan about 1968, I think. It's friction powered on the wheels. A single C-cell battery runs the record player. So in order to repair it, of course, you have to have the body off. And if you've never taken one of these bodies off, it's pretty much like all of the tin toys. You have these tabs, front and rear, and the fenders you have to bend up. But the tricky ones are the ones that are actually on the bottom base plate that fold up under the fenders. These ones stay straight, but these ones get folded, and you need to unfold all those. Once you do that, then you can lift the body off. In the particular case of this toy, it has a few problems. One, it does have a buggered up tooth on the drive gear down in there. I got my little light on. Let's see. Let's turn that on. I can feel it. Let's see if we can see it. We zoom in. It should be right about on top. I don't think I can get the camera angle quite right for you to see it, but there's one tooth that's munched down, so every time it comes around it hangs up. As far as the record player goes, it had two problems. One, let's see if it's working now. Sounds like we could slow it down. So basically there is a speed control when you're inside the battery box where the battery is. There's a plastic knob on the other side of this wiper, and you can move that to adjust the speed, and it kind of sounds like it's running a little bit fast right now, so I could slide that back that way a little bit. The main problem with this particular record player, it had two. One, the original motor was very intermittent. Well, it didn't run at all at first. The commutator and the brushes were so oxidized that the motor wasn't running. So by bending these small tabs here and here, you can lift the back off and get to the brushes and the commutator and clean them up with 400 grit emery cloth and a little bit of lube. Put it back together, got that little motor running, but it was still somewhat intermittent. About the time you would put the lid on, which does apply a little bit of pressure to the brushes here, then the motor may work or may not. More often than not, it wouldn't start up. So I ended up having to replace it with another motor from another talking box toy. And then the second problem is that the power that turns the motor on, when you push this little button here, and I'll lose that screw, it just pushes down on here. That lifts this cone up. This spring adjusts the tension on this sounding cone onto this arm. You can see this arm right here. That's the actual needle that runs on the record, and there's a spring return on that. So if you lift this cone up, that arm will shoot forward. Let's do it right now. Watch the arm. There she goes. There's not much I can do about stopping it and taking the battery out, which is kind of hard to do. So you have to maintain enough pressure. This screw is adjustable through this hole even when it's assembled, because it needs enough tension to track against the spring that's pulling on the needle arm, and so that needle arm can stay in the groove long enough to open up this little electrical switch that's down here. You can almost see through the red cone that there are two pieces of metal there, and now the needle has come back and it's pushed one of the wipers back, so the circuit is open. That's why the motor stopped. And that's why when you push this forward and that arm goes forward, the two little metal arms touch again and the motor runs. Well, those little metal arms, again, had oxidized, and they were very intermittent. About 90% of the time they weren't working. So again, first thing you tried was contact cleaner. That didn't fix it. Next thing I tried was some emery cloth. And the weird thing would be you'd clean everything and it would be working out here in the open, and just about the time you're ready to seal everything back up with the body, you'd test it one more time, you'd find out, dead, not working. So in the end, in order to salvage that switch, I ended up taking apart an actual mini micro switch. I haven't got one here to show you because I took it apart. But inside a normal mechanical switch, there are contacts, and those contacts are made out of special materials which conduct at very low resistance and won't oxidize and go bad. So put 1/2 on each of these metal pieces there. So in other words, there's contacts there now rather than just random metal touching metal. So that part should keep working. As far as the speed control goes, we just talked about, you see this one side just has a wire. This comes from the positive side of the battery. Then the voltage travels through this piece of metal, and then onto this side of it, this wire is considered kind of a resistance type wire. Might be Constantine wire, I'm not really sure. But the further you slide it to the left, the slower the motor will go, and the further you slide it to the right, the faster the motor will go. It allows you to, one, adjust the device to work with, because how much tension you put on here, that has something to do with how much drag's put on the motor, and that'll have to do with how fast it plays. So you need to adjust for that, plus battery wear. If your batteries are getting really weak, you could adjust the speed for that too. Right now that's a very fresh brand new battery, so it's putting out the full 1.5 volts. So it's running a little bit on the fast side. But again, it's not hard to slow it down. It just comes down to sliding this, and I would have attempted to do that, but I'm holding the camera with one hand, and you really need to hold the car with one hand and then slide that with a tool or something, because with the battery in there, I can't get in there to move the piece of plastic the way you're supposed to do it. But so that's the basic deal. As far as what's going on with the record, this is part of the other toy that I tore apart to get the motor. This is what the record looks like. If you're looking straight down in there, this would be mounted on the bottom. The record's facing upwards. These are the grooves. And that little arm has a little needle pin in it which sticks in here, and they all start from the outside and play to the inside. A lot of the record toys have different ways of doing the reset and the stop. Some of them are supposed to reset and just keep playing. This particular case, I think this one was dog barking. It was like an alarm or something. It was either that or a laugh box. I really can't remember whether this record was the laughing or the dog barking, but I think it was the dog barking. So it had a ramp reset. That's what this all about here. When the arm would come all the way in, a little finger would catch on that ramp, and that ramp would lift the finger up. And of course, once you've lifted the finger up, then the spring that's on that needle finger throws it forward again, and it starts over. And so this one would just keep playing and playing because it had another way of turning it on and off. It had a motion sensor, a little metal ball and some contacts. So if you would rock the box, some of the old laugh bags, they used to call them, they had a bag of laughs, would have the same type of sensor in it. So where if you tipped the bag a certain way, then it would start laughing. To make it stop, you would tip it another way. Here's the, no, that's not it. There's the original motor that was in there. Like I say, I've had it apart, but it's just not reliable enough. Could get it running almost up to speed. I could hear it wasn't quite running the way it should, but then its biggest problem was being intermittent. You'd come back an hour later or something, and you'd measure full voltage across here, the 1.5 volts, and the motor's not running until you would pester it a little, and it would start up. So it had to get swapped out. We had to have something a little bit more reliable put back inside the old Monkeey-mobile.